Before he got back to the store, the first customers had already stopped. They were giving out glasses of free ice water, selling Coca-Cola and knickknacks and snacks, and almost instantly they weren't going broke. Ted thought if one wall drug sign had that kind of impact, what would 20 or 30 more wall drug signs along the highways leading to walls do for business? And he kept putting out more and more.
Welcome to the Family Business Connection, a Prairie Family Business Association podcast where we lift up the stories behind family businesses who thrive for generations. I'm your host, Stephanie Larscheid. On Family Business Connection, we explore the topics our family business members request most often: communication, culture, leadership, innovation, strategy, and succession by hearing from the family business leaders who are solving problems day in and day out and building a legacy for their businesses and their families. In this episode, we're joined by both Rick and Sarah Hustead of Wall Drug, a family-owned and operated family business headquartered in Wall, South Dakota. Famous for their free ice water billboards around the world, Rick and Sarah describe how the family expanded the drugstore into a landmark roadside attraction, how they've managed the business for nearly 100 years across 4 generations, and what being the steward of Wall Drug looks like for the future. Thanks for joining us in this episode of Family Business Connection. Before we get into my conversation with Rick and Sarah, here's a word from our sponsor, Pro Resources.
This is Jason Boutwell with Pro Resources. Big companies have HR departments because they understand the bottom line benefit of an effective HR team. It's tempting for small and medium business owners to DIY an HR department. The wrong HR hire can be a liability, and a good HR hire will leave for a bigger company and a bigger opportunity. At Pro Resources, we bring a big company HR department to your small business on a small business budget. Pro Resources is not a fit for everyone, but maybe we're a fit for your business. Busy but curious? Please call me, Jason Boutwell, at 701-200-1400. Together, usually within about 15 minutes, we can determine if there's a match enough to justify additional conversation. Check the Prairie Family Business webpage for the Pro Resources logo to learn more.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode. We're very excited to have third generation and fourth generation of the Wall Drug family with us today. Welcome to our podcast, Rick and Sarah.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
It's fun to be here. Looking forward to it.
It's great to have you here. When we think about family business and being Prairie Family Business Association, being headquartered in South Dakota, you are one of the most iconic family businesses in our state and in our region, world famous. Give us who you are, your background. Tell us about Wall Drug.
Okay, I'll start. I'm Rick Hustead, third generation in this family business. I've been back in the business for 43 years. My grandparents, Ted and Dorothy Hustead, started Wall Drug in 1931 in the middle of the Depression. One man said it was the worst possible time to start anything. The original drugstore was 60 feet by 24 wide, and they were living in the back 24 feet of the store behind a red curtain with their 4-year-old son, Billy, my dad.
Wow.
There was a lot of talk about going broke. There was 25% unemployment in the United States. Wall had a very small population. There weren't many customers. They were going to give it 5 years, and they were in the 5th year, and it looked bleak. Dorothy was across town in a rented room trying to give Billy a nap and get a little rest herself. She couldn't sleep because of the tourist traffic coming out of the Badlands on US 16 and 14 on their way to Rapid City in the Black Hills. Dorothy thought to herself, here we sit with a great big soda fountain, all the ice in the world and no customers. She had an idea. She asked the lady, she said, "Would you watch Billy? I need to go down to the store and talk to Ted." When she got there, she said, "Ted, we've got to let people know that we're here. I think we should put up a sign, get a soda, get a beer, turn next corner just as near to Highway 16 and 14, free ice water, Wall Drugstore." We were not called Wall Drug until that moment. Before, we were Hustead Drugstore. But Dorothy thought Wall Drug, named after the town of Wall, was catchier. And so did Ted. And he hired a high school boy. They lettered that sign series and went out and put it up. Before he got back to the store, the first customers had already stopped. They were giving out glasses of free ice water, selling Coca-Cola and knickknacks and snacks, and almost instantly they weren't going broke. Ted thought if one Wall Drug sign had that kind of impact, what would 20 or 30 more Wall Drug signs along the highways leading to Wall do for business? And he kept putting out more and more. And they were so busy after they started advertising, they needed to hire 8 local girls to help them run the drugstore and the old-fashioned soda fountain. And they were doing well, so well that in 1942, they were able to move to the east side of Main Street. They brought up a much bigger store that was a building in Wasta, which is about 11 miles from here, and it was about 3,000 square feet. When Dorothy got into the new store, she said, "What are we going to do with all this room?" Well, eventually they filled it up, but that was in 42. In 43 to 45, Bill was in high school and going to a high school at a Catholic boarding school in Sioux City, Iowa, Trinity. And it was during the war years. And Bill would hitchhike to school 380 miles. And people would ask him, "Where are you from, young man?" And he'd say, "Well, I'm from Wall." And they would say, "Oh, that's where that little drugstore is with all those signs." And he found that embarrassing as a teenager. We didn't even have indoor plumbing. We had outdoor toilets, like in the country, outhouses, pretty rough. But Bill saved himself some embarrassment by telling people he was from Wasta. So no Wall Drug conversation. But anyway, it did make an impression on him. And he thought, if I ever come back into the family business, I'm going to try to make it into something magnificent, something so impressive when people go back home and talk to their friends and relatives. They say, if you are in western South Dakota, don't miss Wall Drug. You're not going to believe it. Bill took Wall Drug, and I think that when Bill came back into the family business as a registered pharmacist with his wife Marjorie and myself and my baby brother Teddy in 1951, just born, when we came back into the family business, Wall Drug was about 4,000 square feet. Bill, in his 48-year career, took Wall Drug to 76,000 square feet.
Wow.
And that's really what we are today. And he did other things too. He had a great vision. Go ahead.
Well, just year 5 being that turning point, business owners who are listening to say, it is really hard to get started. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And in year 5, they took some chances. And by fate and luck, here we are today. You're nearly 100 years old. And I'm talking to 3rd generation and 4th generation. And you credit so much of that to the matriarch and her idea and what she put into process. It's incredible.
Well, and Bill and Ted Dorothy were in business in a lot of years together, and Bill had the big vision and down to the detail. Like he put together our Western art gallery dining rooms with over 300 original Western oil paintings, a
Wow.
spectacular collection of Western art and illustrator art. Amazing with some really big names. Sarah, who's the most famous South Dakota?
Well, there's NCYS and then
And NC West, probably our most famous artist, and we have many others.
It's impressive. Sarah, go ahead and introduce yourself. Fourth generation, the next generation. Tell us about yourself.
right. Well, I'm Sarah Hustead. I'm the fourth generation. Um, actually coming up on the anniversary of you asking me to come back into the business.
Yes.
Because it was at Christmas
Yes.
in 2012.
Wow.
Um, I was home for Christmas and my dad sat me down and said, it's maybe time to come back into the business. And my stepmom was integral in that as well. She told my dad, Sarah doesn't have a boyfriend right now. We should get her back. And so two months later, maybe three, I was back in the business. And previously I worked almost every summer growing up. So really knew what I was getting into, had been around my dad and stepmom and really saw how the business operated. And I had started out bussing tables on the floor, then moved on to work in the soda fountain a couple summers, was in the office. So I really got a good experience of what all aspects of the business looked like and knew after college that I would be coming back at some point.
That's a great story. And so often it does take that conversation. So you remember it so clearly. It was Christmas. You asked me to come back. We had the conversation. And before that, perhaps there was a lot of wondering, a what ifs, not sure if that's the path for me or not, or if that's the path for Sarah or not. So that's just such a telling piece of your story, that conversation and asking the question about the path, about the possibility is so critical. How does it feel to be third and fourth generation of Wall Drug? And give us a little bit of context around that too, because Wall is still a very small town. And the number of people that you employ.
Well, last summer we employed 186 employees.
Wow. And then we have 60 full-time year-round staff.
Wow. And what's the size of the town?
650, 700. It varies kind of from year to year a little bit.
So you are the employer in the town of Wall.
Well, actually, there's other businesses like we have Golden West.
Telecommunications.
They're here and they're big and their corporate office is here and West River Electric here, and we're very thankful to have those businesses in town too.
You've really put the town of Wall on the map, and when tourists come out to the Black Hills, it's a must stop. I'm a native Iowan, and I hear that from family and friends in Iowa. We're heading west, and we're making the stop at Wall Drug. I know that many of our listeners hear that conversation often, wherever they live in the country. So when you talk about Wall Drug, you also partner with a lot of other family businesses to have product, to have some of what you have in your store. Talk about those relationships that you have with fellow family businesses.
I can speak to one specifically. My grandma taught me we buy Southwestern silver, Native American made turquoise. And when I was growing up, like 13, my grandma, Rick's mother, taught me how to buy turquoise jewelry, what to look for, how to mark it, and all of that. And then fast forward years later, she had to be in her late 80s at that time.
Yes.
In her late 80s, she came in to give me another course on how to do it. And the guy that we buy the jewelry from, his name is Amadisa, and she bought with him for
Decades.
decades. So, and he was close with her, and it's now close with me, and just generations of families working together. That's one of many examples for me.
That's a
Well,
great.
and I think of we worked with an insurance company in Grand Island, Nebraska, and Ted was originally from Nebraska, and Ted and Dorothy went to the University of Nebraska, and they're a family business, and I worked with Gary for 35 years, and now we're working with his son Chris, and there are parallels in our family businesses. Like in our family business, you need to be invited back.
And was that an unsaid family employment policy, or is that something that you have formalized?
Well, I know Bill graduated from pharmacy, and he was working in Watertown, South Dakota at Kaiser Drug, and Ted went to Watertown and Dorothy, and they said, Bill, we think it's time you come back into the family business, and he did. And Dad contacted me in '81 about coming back into the family business, and I did. And so we kind of did the same with Sarah.
Yeah.
And because the operating generation needs to recruit and bring in the next generation.
What
And
are?
then
Go ahead, Sarah.
like my perspective, I know my dad really wanted me to go out and experience the world and on my own and learn, so I would have something more to bring back into the business.
It's a great perspective to have, and a lot of our families write that into their family employment policies, that you need to go work elsewhere for X number of years, and also while you're there, you need to have a promotion. You need to experience a boss and a supervisor who's not a family member or not connected to the family business, and that can be really important for you and what you're able to bring back for credibility, for experience, for your talents. Talk about each of your roles today. What are each of your roles within the business, Rick and Sarah?
Well, we have different responsibilities. We both, when it's busy in the summer, work in the restaurant because that is what is really complicated to make sure it runs well. If Sarah does the menu, the more time we spend in there in the restaurant when it's busy, the better it goes. So that's one thing. I head up a number of things in our office. Sarah, I'll let you talk about. You really head up most of our retail operation.
Yeah. I directly oversee the jewelry departments, and then the other departments are reporting to me, but really we've got fantastic retail department heads that don't need a whole lot of babysitting or anything.
No, they're
Not quite like
Or bang out.
Is anyone else from your family involved in the business?
Yes. My wife Pat heads up our camping department and orders for that, stocks for it, sells, and has a lot of good advice for me.
That's great.
Yeah, she's really the boss. We don't like getting in trouble with that.
That's great. Everyone needs their role. Well, you think about keeping Wall Drug in the family and being a nearly 100-year-old business. That is not easy. That takes a lot of hard work, a lot of intentionality. What does that mean to you, and how have you been intentional about keeping Wall Drug family owned?
Well, we would sure that is one of our goals. We would sure like to continue that, and with Sarah back at a young age, we're going to be able to.
And our accountant has helped a lot with the succession planning and making sure that the business can make the jump to the next generation.
And we have a legal team that advises us on numerous aspects of the business, and it really keeps us on the straight and narrow and on a good trajectory.
That's great. You need those advisors who are helping form your path and making sure your goals are met, goals for yourself and I'm sure to the community and the region. They have some vested interest in you remaining a family business and being able to support the local economy and the tourism and just the culture, the feeling that you have when you enter Wall Drug, that family atmosphere. It's pretty special, and it's not to be underestimated.
Well, and Stephanie, you touch on something that we really, Sarah and I really try to do. We want our customers to have the traditional wall drug experience, and we want to improve on it every year. And we really try to do that. That's one of our core values.
That's great. It's really good to hear that, and especially your repeat customers who come back year after year and can find that new experience. So that's one of your core values. What else would you mention as a core value of Well Drug and your family?
Well, like you mentioned, we have people coming back first, second, third, fourth, fifth generation and bringing their grandchildren. So just we want our customers to have a nice experience, our food to be excellent in our dining rooms, our merchandise to have a nice variety and quality, and the ambiance of Waldrug to be friendly. We stress with our employees that 50% of our business, this is what my dad always told me, and I've never disagreed with him. 50% of our business is repeat business, and the reason they tell us they're coming back is because they're treated so well at Waldrug by our employees. And that's not Sarah and I. Our employees are delivering that friendly, excellent customer service that we want in our business.
And that's very true of everything you think and experience of Wall Drug. And I want to point out that I appreciate that your marketing strategy really hasn't changed a lot over those nearly 100 years. The signs are still out on the side of the road, wherever you are in the country, and especially in the South Dakota region. That marketing works very well for you, and it's catchy, and people talk about it.
Well, and my dad said, we advertise fairly heavily on the interstate, and we want our customers to really enjoy the experience. We want to deliver on the experience, that they have a nice time at Waldrug, that they're treated in a very friendly and warm fashion, and we do everything we can to provide excellent customer service. And one thing, we're in the restaurant a lot. We wait on our customers a lot, and that is really helpful, and it sets a good example for our employees.
And you get that face-to-face interaction and those personal conversations that stick with people. What does the future hold for Wall Drug, and what are you excited about for the future?
Well, every year it's a challenge just to stay in business. we'd like to continue to do that, and improve and maybe expand in some areas. We always have ideas that we kind of keep in the background that we're working on for the future.
How about you, Sarah? What excites you for the future?
I'm just always excited to provide better and better customer service products, and then also be the best employer we can be, because we owe a lot of why we're here to all the great employees who have invested their time and efforts into the store. Um, so just as much as our customers, I think, how can we be better for our customers? How can we be better for our employees as well? And how can we be better for our community uh, and state?
And in the line of our employees, we've tried to improve our health care plan, compensation, time off. We try to be flexible with time where we can, and it's appreciated by our employees, and we want to retain them because they really helped run the business well, and we need them now, and we're going to need them in the future.
My guess is that with businesses like yours, when you've reached that fourth generation, I am sure that you've had multiple generations of employees working for you as well, where you've had a parent and their child ends up coming to work for Wall Drug. You want to speak to that?
I think Mike Heather would be a really good example.
Oh yeah,
He was our general manager for how many years, Sad? For a long time.
oh at least over 30.
Over 30 years, and he's now passed, which was a huge blow to us at the store, but we got the opportunity to work with all of his kids, and we don't now, but we still have his niece working in our restaurant, and it feels really good to be that their parents liked it so much, and they're also here, and you can connect with, remember what your dad used to do, or remember this about him, and go back, and you can be nostalgic about the relationships that have been built over so many years.
Well, and we've had employees work for us over 50 years.
Wow. Wow. Very
And
impressive.
they really love Well Drug and love the experience and I always, Sarah and I talk about it periodically. This is kind of a crazy business, and it's really hands-on and it's very time demanding, and you have to love the business or be crazy or maybe a little bit of both to want to be here. And we want to be here and help steer the ship.
Well, I hope and trust that the next 100 years are very bright for Wall Drug and for your family, and we're here to support you along the way. The average generation within our membership at Prairie Family Business Association is 2.3. So you have well exceeded that in terms of generations, and it's to be commended and celebrated. We've moved to the point of our conversation where we have our Family Business 5. And so we have 5 questions that we ask all of our guests. And so to start off, if you want to share, what is a book that has greatly influenced your life?
Well, my book, I would have to go, I read the Bible every day. And I mean, really, it's my favorite book, and I think it gives good direction for Christian life, and that has always been a big part of the fabric of my grandparents, my parents, and for me.
It's who you are. Anything you'd add there, Sarah?
Well, my favorite book is called Under the Influence. It's a book on alcoholism and really dives into the science of alcoholism and alcoholics. And that greatly influenced me 12 years ago when I quit drinking. So,
Matter of fact, my grandfather Ted was in AA, and my dad eventually quit drinking in his 50s, and he went to AA, and I quit drinking. So it's kind of a little bit of a family tradition.
One, that
to be alcoholic, but it helps.
it's something that will hit home with some of our listeners in hearing you state that in that book. And I know that that book will be something that will be helpful to others. So thank you for sharing that. Our next question is through looking back on your family business, what do you most attribute your success to, or what are you most proud of?
Oh, I think what I'm most proud of is the effort we put into the family business. It's not easy. It's demanding, but we really step up to the plate. I think probably the best example of that is in 2000 when we had COVID. We had 200 employees in 19. We were going into 2020. All we could get was 120 employees. Super challenging. We were closed for 70 days.
Yeah.
But we were closed from March 22nd to the 1st of June to erect shielding. Sarah decided that we needed to mask up because we didn't really know what we were dealing with. And one thing, we opened up with 120 employees. That was all we could get. Streamlined the cafe menu, shortened our hours. We weren't even able to open our soda fountain. We came to work every day. I came to work every day, 7 days a week, and went right into the restaurant, and we made it work. And with Sarah and I, the time we've worked together, I think that was our finest hour. We really had to step up to the plate and deliver, and we did. And we had a solid year. And the next year, 2021, we were able to hire 45 more employees. We were at 165, and we had an unbelievable year. People were so sick of being cooped up. They weren't flying so much. It was the year of the road trip, and that is right up our alley.
I hope that has continued in those years since that time. But yeah, a big obstacle to get over, and when you think back over all of your history and how that brought the two of you together on making decisions and moving forward. Anything you'd add, Sarah?
I would also just really attribute my success to my dad. He always has made sure that I think that I'm thinking right about the business and working hard and moving in a good direction. As I was coming up, he said something that has really stuck with me, and that was that he doesn't really think of himself as the owner of Wall Drug. He thinks of himself as the steward of Wall Drug. And that way of thinking about it has really stuck with me in how I operate and think about what I'm doing, and am I serving Wall Drug, the store, customers, our employees.
It's sort
And along with that, a lot of my motivation to come to work the last few years is to help Sarah and help mentor her as my dad mentored me, and and we work together really well. And it's fun to be in a family business. It's amazing to have a talented daughter to work with and go into the future with.
Well, that says it all right there. What family business is all about and what it means to the two of you and your why on why you're propelling Wall Drug into the next 100 years. So thank you so much for this conversation. It has been very enjoyable. I hope that our listeners on their next trip on Interstate 90 can make a stop by and say hello to Rick and Sarah. You might find them in the restaurant. They might be waiting on your table. But thank you so much for sharing your family business journey and story with us, Rick and Sarah.
Stephanie, thank you. It was really enjoyable.
Thank
you,
you.
Stephanie. It was an honor to be on the Prairie Family Business Podcast.
Thank you so much. And on that note, we've reached the end of the episode. Thank you to Rick and Sarah for sharing their family's nearly 100-year history with Wall Drug. As you heard them describe, communication is key to successful succession events. Asking the next generation to be a part of the business instead of assuming their involvement or uninvolvement is crucial. They also described the importance of innovation to long-term success. Without Rick's grandmother suggesting billboard advertising during the Great Depression, who knows what the trajectory of the drugstore would have been. Join Prairie Family Business Association for an action-packed 2 days full of family business inspiration and motivation that will transform your thinking around communication, succession, relationships, and the future of your family business at the 2025 Annual Family Business Conference. Now at the Steel District Canopy by Hilton Hotel in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, you'll want to register for your tickets at the lowest price of the year. Learn more and register at fambus.org/2025. Thanks again for joining us today. Our conversation with the Husteads wraps up the inaugural season of the Family Business Connection. Be sure to follow or subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts to be the first to know when Season 2 launches.